Highway to Tom Cruise's house. Going right to Tom Cruise's house.
It's off the exit.
Yes, everybody, put your cars in Tom Cruise control and join us again this week for another episode of Too Much Popcorn, the movie review podcast where Jimmy and I sit down, watch a movie, and then sit down again to talk a little bit about that movie. Talk about the highs, the lows, you know, the drop deck that you shouldn't go below. Otherwise, John Hamm will yell at you. And then ultimately...
Sorry, Aaron. I'm getting some... Here's... Can I request the drop deck to be lowered, please? I have the little orders ready.
Oh, yeah. Let me look at that real quick. No, because I'm John Hamm and I'm angry.
Oh, antagonistic.
Yeah, and then ultimately we tell you whether you should watch the movie that we have watched or not.
What did we watch this week, Aaron?
This week we watched the 1986 classic. Oh, wait, we actually watched the, I think it was either 2018 or 2022 classic because it was set to, it started filming in 2018 and then it was set to come out in 2020. And then
2022, I think definitive.
Something happened in 2020.
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, what was yeah. I don't know.
Doesn't come to mind.
I don't know, but Tom Cruise, he put this in his cellar, he aged it like a fine wine, and then he released it to the public in a time where people were watching movies about Zoom. We were watching movies where people were zooming, and then Tom Cruise was like, no, we're going to zoom in airplanes. And then that's what this movie's about. We watched Top Gun Maverick, everybody.
2022's Top Gun Maverick, starring your favorite guy who goes fast dangerously in planes and motorcycles, Tom Cruise, and the rest. And
thank God he wears a helmet in an airplane because he doesn't wear them on motorcycles, and that's stressful enough.
You can tell he doesn't want to, though. You can see it in his eyes. He's like, oh, if I only didn't have to wear this helmet that could save my life.
Yeah.
So we watched Top Gun Maverick, and it does feel a little weird to not be talking about the original 1986 film first, and I guess we could always return to it, but it is something that we watched
recently
before.
Yeah.
It was within the last 1 to 2 years, if time matters.
Yeah.
But, if anything, rewatching it that recently made it that much more impactful of a film for me now.
Yeah.
Watching it.
Yeah. So you can pull the ejection handle here and wait until we review that episode first. But no, just listen to this one because come on.
Yes, and as always, we generally will talk about sort of story beats within the film that we just watched. So if you haven't seen Maverick and you don't want plot spoilers, then pause the episode right now. Go give it a good 2.5 hours and then come on back and see what we had to say about it. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just spoilers.
Yeah. There probably won't be too many spoilers in this one.
I don't think so. I think there isn't really much to spoil. You know, they get in the big planes and they do the cool tricks, and it looks beautiful the whole time.
It is a beautiful movie, everybody. The cinematography, I think, in a way where we mostly in these episodes break down like the plot and pitfalls of the plot, I think in this one we're mostly going to talk about the cinematography and the sound design and other great things that happen in this movie.
Yes. It is one of those films where you look at it and you go, well, hot damn, here's a bunch of people that came together and made a film, and everybody involved knew what they were doing. You have amazing lighting. There is not a flat shot to be seen. You have perfectly lit characters. Lighting will generally go from a beautiful golden hour sunset on an aircraft carrier to a rainy drenched office scene where John Hamm's delivering the goodest or worst news that you will hear in the film. Like there is such a wide range of wonder to behold within this film. And that's not even to mention the insane level of skill and technicality within the aircraft shots of it doesn't, there's no, you're like, well, they just did it. You know, they just flew the planes. They flew the real F-18s. They didn't, but they might as well have. There's no reason to not just disconnect that part and be like, Tom Cruise flying a jet. It's real, because it's sold in such a perfectly believable way.
Yeah, I think in my mind it is easier for me to accept that Tom Cruise really did talk the Navy into letting him fly airplanes with the rest of the cast versus somehow somebody figured out the like graphic CG of putting somebody in a cockpit with a visor over their face that was reflecting the things that was going on the outside.
Yes. It feels like where Mandalorian uses its sort of, you know, light projection sort of mapping things to create these alien worlds. They probably did the same technique or a blend of many, many techniques that are way above my pay grade to craft this completely believable. And that's the thing, too, is like a cockpit shot shouldn't be that engaging of a shot. But every time you're seeing somebody pulling those G's or doing some maneuver or doing something, and it's just a shot of the cockpit, and you know it's an actor with like basically full face covering, there's no emotiveness there, and yet I was feeling the most emotions when you're given the least amount of visual information.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. Like the CG is like a step above our pay grade. If you want to figure out how they did it, I'm not going to figure it out because that's going to break my, you know, reality. Go watch fucking Corridor Digital and they'll break it down for you. We're just going to tell you, man, it looked beautiful. And yes, it did put me in the seat with these actors who were portraying them flying these planes. And I guess, yeah, you have, they were able to convey emotion just through their eyeballs and it worked.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much to a face in which when you're watching a film, like most films, you're like, you look at the actor's face, the actor does something with their mouth or you take the whole face in. And in this, you're like, well, I guess I'll watch Tom Cruise's eyes act for 2 hours because you have to. And he pulls it off. And every person who was one of the pilots, Phoenix to, Rooster to whoever. Yeah, Hungman and fanboy, incel, flying off the handle with these new handles. But amazing supporting performances, amazing lead performances. Jennifer Connelly's in this film, and she fucking nails being the 80s. And the callbacks to Val Kilmer and, Goose, who is dead, so the actor's not going to be in the film, which I think is a good thing that they did avoid, actually, in terms of not having the actual actor who played Goose be like, he shows up.
Force ghost.
Like a ghost.
Yeah.
That would have just not been good, but there's enough energy in the film that the actors are putting towards calling to the specter of Goose anyways, that his energy is there and felt and persists throughout the film. And, you have Rooster being the direct son with footage from the 86 movie of him, not actually, Miles Teller, but believably Miles Teller is actually Goose's son.
Yeah.
It was amazing casting all around. But Miles Teller is like literally with a mustache on. You're like, what? That's Goose too.
I know. We had that little joke while we were watching it where it was like Tom Cruise watched Whiplash and he was like, yo, we got to get going on Top Gun 2 right now, guys. This is him. Because seriously, Miles Teller, you could tell me that he is directly related to I am now blanking on his name, the actor
know,
who
I
played
just
Goose.
saw it,
Yeah, I know,
too.
we just talked about it.
It's gone.
But you could tell me he is
Mr.
directly
Edwards.
related. Yeah, and I would believe it because he does a
Yes.
very good job of portraying a son to that character, both in likeness, physical likeness, and like mannerisms.
Yes, yeah. There's that sort of echo, and I think it is very cool to me because the 86 film is not my favorite film by a long shot, but it does hold a special place in my heart. It is the weirdest romance film to be out there that just exudes this energy of not wanting to talk about it being a romance film at all. It just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But it 100% is, and you're like, okay, well, do you get in the planes? Do you play volleyball? And they're like, yeah, we do all that stuff. It's a romance film, but we do all that other stuff. And this film is, like you said when we were watching, Aaron, like the romance is there. You've put Jennifer Connelly there, and the throughway in that lands really miraculously well with the whole fly off at the end and stuff like that. But this film, more than anything, is a Tom Cruise cruise control, no helmet, no brakes. You're in the cockpit action film. And to get that energy from the director of Oblivion makes perfect sense.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, okay, yes, the action, the explosions, the synthesis between all of these things is sold in such a good way. You know, you just got to, it's one of those sit back and relax and enjoy far from relax, but
Yeah.
enjoy the show type of movies. You don't have to think about anything. They'll explain what they have to explain, and if you pay attention, then you get some jargon in there, and then otherwise you're just beholding.
Yeah, I think this movie did a very good job of keeping me on the edge of my seat in a way that Dunkirk did as well, when we saw that together so very long ago and ate way too much popcorn.
The original too much popcorn incident.
I think if we had seen this one together and had extra large popcorns, oh man, they would have been 100% et, because
Yes.
I think what does it for me with the stress of this movie is, I think, one, you have the human element of you care for these characters and want to see them live through their mission, their suicide mission. But also you just have, again, the sound where you have Harold Faltermeyer he is sitting back there knocking on that church bell all the time. And it just like, it gets you in the pit of your stomach every time you hear it. For me, it sent shivers through my body.
I thought you were going to say shit down your body.
I lost my lunch multiple times during this movie.
Oh, man.
I've seen this movie 4 or 5 times now. This is literally my 4th or 5th watch of this movie.
Oh, beautiful.
And when I hear that church bell, I still get those shivers. I'm just like, ooh, the ASMR, it's there.
Yes.
And then Harold accompanies that. He knocks on a church bell, and then he gets a jet just revved up.
Yes.
And, oh, dude, it takes me to the danger zone. Both of those send shivers through my body. ASMR, it gets the adrenaline going a little bit in my mind.
Yeah.
It really helps to accompany the visuals that you're seeing on scene. Like, if you were watching this movie and you're seeing Tom Cruise do these cool maneuvers where you have him do the Cobra, or you have him do the inverted over the mountain, and it was just like, you'd be like, all right, but like, just to have the full jet engines, Harold going at it. Oh,
well, that's the thing. It is Harold Faltermeyer was the original composer for the film, 86. And when the credits roll for how many people were involved with sound, with the scoring, with the needle drops, the selection of music in this film, and the weight of the sort of many minds that were put to work to make this film sound and look and feel as good as it does, it just makes sense that you're like, Harold, you did great. You set up an amazing foundation for what we're just going to let you keep you're going to keep doing stuff. We're going to put Lorne Balfe in here with the score. We're going to throw in Hans Zimmer. You know, who else knows? We're going to needle drop the Who at some point during the training montages. You get some amazing needle drops in this where you're just like, yeah, play this song right now and do the fun stuff you're going to do in the air. And it's a show. Like, you get to see an air show, which in reality is a sight to behold. But to be in the cockpit or even aerial to view these sort of maneuvers is so much more engaging to watch as an audience when you don't get to actually see it in reality. But then, like you were saying, yes, there isn't like a phew, woof, the plane goes phew. It is booming. It is an all-encompassing sound that starts the movie. As soon as it's starting, you're on the ship that's transporting these things. You're getting planes taking off, and it's like one of the best intro title sequences I've seen in a while, where you just get to sort of just sit back and like, I'm on a ship. And then they're like doing stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's very fun to watch.
And see, I absolutely love it because the 1986 version starts the same exact way. It has the little same exact way. It has the little Harold Faltermeyer score that then turns into Kenny Loggins danger zoning it up. And then it's just like a solid 3 minutes of jets taking off and landing and amazing naval crewmen doing their job. And it worked so, like, they saw it work so well in 1986 and in that film, and they were like, hey, that's how we're going to start this one.
Yeah. I think there's also something to it where the original director who the film was dedicated to had this passion for flight and sort of capturing it in film. And lo and behold, the cinematographers, the people involved in capturing that same style nailed it again. You're like, how'd you do it? You did it again. And you got Tom Cruise to do it too.
Yeah, it's very obvious I would say it's obvious in the first movie that like everybody loved, flight and the Navy's dedication to like being the best at flying. But this movie just encompasses it even better, where I think you had even like the best boy who was like, yo, I love airplanes so much and I love what the Navy does. And I just want to like encompass that and highlight just the goodness of it. Like everybody in this movie, no doubt, has a passion for flight,
the military industrial complex.
Yep. Flight, airplanes, the military, especially the Navy.
So hard for the Navy.
Dude. In the way where like you had a lot of films prior to 1986 that started to get on the bandwagon of like, yes, the military sometimes does bad stuff. It happened. And then Top Gun comes out and it's almost like a recruitment video.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. It's, you got your love story. It is a romance.
They were only missing the part where Tom Cruise shows up at the end of the credits and he goes, hey.
Yeah.
He just points at you and he goes, hey, you wanna?
Yeah.
Join this?
Or like,
and then you're like, he grabs your hand and pulls you through the screen.
Yeah. Or like before the credits, it like gives you the phone number for like your closest Navy recruiter. And you're
literally a step away in either film from happening.
Yeah.
If you read a business card on John Hamm's desk, you'll see the number.
And I've seen a lot of war movies since then. You have really great ones, Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor. We talked about American Sniper, all great movies, but no movie really highlights just how, like, again, this movie is a recruitment video for how fucking awesome the Navy is.
They did it again.
They did it again.
Okay, but that's the thing is like the planes are cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to say it. It's aircraft doing maneuvers, flying at these speeds. It's cool.
Yeah.
It is one of the coolest things to capture on film. And if you have to fake it in a movie because you want your film to be cool, then yeah, you're going to do it military style. It's not going to be kids flying around in Wright Brothers planes. That's not cool. This is cool.
Yeah. No,
definitively.
I have no reason to not say it. Like, if you have ever thought, hey, I want to, sign up and serve to better myself and better my country, like, go do it. Whether it's for the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, I guess.
Coast Guard?
If you want to fly, go do it and, put some time in, serve.
I mean, it's you've extended the recruitment video into the podcast.
I did. Tom Cruise got me.
You took the extra step that Tom Cruise didn't have the balls to take.
Oh, no, he did.
He did. He grabbed yours, and he's using you as a little puppet. Interesting. No, that's the thing, is it comes with the baggage of even the mission parameters are sort of like, who are we bombing? What's going on? I get it. Nuke's bad. Nuclear enrichment bad, but also is this sanctioned? What's going on? Is this a CIA op?
That was, I would say, the one thing about this movie that was kind of like, yeah.
Well, it's essentially saying all enemies to the U.S. are, faceless fighter pilots, like literally Star Warsian TIE fighter pilots are the enemy, and you can fight them because it's like they're aliens, and you can shoot them down, dehumanize them in any way by not giving them any human qualities at all.
Yeah, I don't know if the DOJ stepped in and said hey, we can't take a stand on who our enemy is in this movie, but it is very kind of almost off-putting in a way where it's everything else is so solidified, and then they outline this great plan of what's happening in the world, and then why Tom Cruise is the one who has to gather these kids together and teach them to work together as a team to accomplish their mission. And then they're like, all right, our bad guys, they're a third party, and they live in this kind of snowy place that could either be Kazakhstan or China or Russia, but we're not really,
it's cold.
It could be those. It could be. We'll leave that up to you. They've got 5th generation fighters, and they also got their hands on an F-14. So it could be a lot of people, but we're not exactly gonna say. And you're like, yeah. It almost has that taste in my mouth of calling your agency the agency instead of giving it a cool ass name.
Yes, but I think the thing is, if you were to name a country, this movie would not sell well in that country who is declared as the enemy in the movie.
Yeah, but you look at the 1986 one and it had no problem being yo, Russia is the bad guys.
Well, yeah, that was 86. That was specifically part of the...
Okay, but look at what's going on now, where Russia is still... And this is not I'm not saying all Russian people are bad. I am saying that the Russian state is still in 2022. You cannot argue with this. Get on literally any news source and look at the war crimes they are doing. They are still the bad guys. And so if this movie had said, hey, Russia is still not only in 1986, but still in 2022, still doing bad shit, I'd be like, yes!
What oligarch paid Tom Cruise $1 billion to not say Russia in the film?
Yeah, somebody, again, I don't know if it was the DOJ and they didn't want, in the same way that The Interview took a hard stance where they were like, yo, hot take alert, North Korea is bad. And then, I don't know if and then, North Korea, was like, hey, we're literally going to nuke America if this movie comes out. And James Franco was just like, eh.
Yeah, do it. Idiot.
Yeah, and so I don't know if this movie, the original script was yo, hot take alert, Russia is the bad guys, and then Russia's like, hey, we're gonna nuke America, and everybody else is like, okay,
everyone's like, oh, wait, roll it back a second.
let's not do that. I think if James Franco had directed this movie, he would be like, eh.
You mean we would be dust?
Yeah.
We would be but particulate matter on the wind. Reeling it back just a little bit, though, I think it's funny. You mentioned a bunch of good movies that are, Black Hawk Down, that are these depictions of badass stuff going down in the military. but it is this sort of realism. There's always that sort of steeped in, it feels bad eventually, like you're watching it and you're like, ooh, like these people know what they're doing is killing, and sort of like they're in danger, and it feels bad. It feels good to watch. I still cool. I don't know what to say about that. Hits that part in your brain. Same sort of ASMR adrenaline thing. But there were a string of films, and I'm not gonna name any because they're all bad, and I can't remember them. They blend together. But it was people who are not engaged in the sort of, I don't want to say reverence, but sort of acknowledgement of the power of the military and sort of what Top Gun did with the military, where you're like, they're just people. They have their own problems. They can do these amazing superhuman feats in these aircraft and all this stuff. And we're going to show it on film because it's an engaging thing to watch. And then there were all these films that were just like, they're in the military and then they fight stuff. And it was these teams behind these films that were not on the same page as Top Gun, where they're like, this is human. This is a human story, maybe even a romance story again, but it's a human story about people who are in the military. It's not a military story that dehumanizes even the main characters and turns them into the cannon fodder of the film.
Kinda. I think I know where you're going. Maybe it's like, I guess it is unfair in a way for me to compare, Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor, American Sniper to this movie, where in those movies, those are literal actual things that happened with actual people, actual stories.
Yes.
And then you have Hangman, Rooster, Tom Cruise, who are the ones
and
who are...
mysterious enemy.
And mysterious enemy. Number 5, Trusha, Yeah.
Prussia, yeah. So, but I'm trying to say, like, there is something to the people being in the military and that not being the main thing in the story. You use them being in the military as a way to move them through what they need to do. They're not gonna be in F-18s anywhere else. There's no reality where they're just flying these jets for funsies. This is their job. And so there's something in the back of my mind that is always like, okay, fine. Like, yes, they've enlisted to do this, but there is some enjoyment to being the best at it. And the flip side of that is these films that were being churned out that were like military, and it had the you should join the military without the sort of human side of the, like, you're still a person and you matter for all these different reasons, and you can love Jennifer Connelly and you can do all these other things. And it's like, nah, you're just here to shoot the bad guys that we'll name.
So, okay, I think I know where you're going. So you're like looking at like a movie like Battle Los Angeles, where they're like, yo,
yes,
we got...
See, I don't want to say.
See, I will say, I'll put that movie on blast. Like, oh yeah, we got the military, and now all of these guys, they're the jarheads, and they come in and they do their job, and blah blah blah. And like, yeah, their whole character is the military, or like,
yes,
they try and humanize them in literally 5 seconds.
Yes,
but it's like, no,
it's usually much more. Like, it's dehumanizing in the way that they're like, and that one's Goober, and he's just fucking crazy, man. And you're like, shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah.
These are people. They've created characters in this film that are in the military, and the military is secondary to everything else that's going on. But that's what the first Top Gun did too, is they're learning in this Top Gun school. And it's not about them going off to actually go kill people. Like, yes, it eventually escalates to that. And then this film does the same thing where it escalates fully to that. Yeah, there's more care put into the people as just complex beings that exist.
Yeah. And I it's interesting because, like, you look at Jennifer Connelly's character in this movie, and her character is almost exactly that, where, like, it's written of, like, hey, here's her backstory, but it's written better where, they are giving you her backstory and you're like, was she in the first one? And then you're like really sitting there and you're like, I looked it up earlier and I know she wasn't in the first one.
But it's believable.
Yeah.
Because you're provided her backstory in such a flippant way that you're like, oh, well, I mean, she knows Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe their on-set chemistry worked, to help kind of amplify that. Cause that was also there where, I think they did a good job of like flirting with each other and like having that air of, oh, hey, we've known each other for multiple years, and through highs and lows, things have happened which have allowed us to remain flirty, but never anything beyond that.
Yeah, I wonder if that plays into them actually being in the same business, and I don't know if they've worked together before, but there's, like you said, there's that chemistry there that is believable instantly, where they're chatting as if they have known each other forever, and it's believable immediately, even though she is a new character. And that's the thing, is this film ends up being not about their romance, but their romance is a through line to the outside world in terms of why people should live, why the John Hamm military go push, if you die you die type of mentality is bad and should be rejected. And you get to that, it feels less wrong to side with Tom Cruise's character because he's also like actively anti-military in some way, where he's like, I don't want to be, like I only want to be in the air and be alive and like live with Jennifer Connelly in this instant. Like he never says in these things outright, but his character motivations are like, keep people alive by rejecting the norms of throw people to their deaths, and keep people alive because they have families, keep people alive because of this and that. And I felt like that was a very powerful through line from the 86 film to this one, and it pulled it off effortlessly.
Yeah, I would agree with that, where it definitely, and further, each of these characters has their, and again, I think this is another benefit to good writing and good chemistry from all actors on set, where each character is, who they are, but they also have this flaw, and the flaw is what makes them them. You got Hangman, who his flaw is that he's incredibly prideful, and he's willing to throw literally every character under the bus to try and show that he's the best there is. You got Rooster, who his flaw is that, he's overly cautious, and he's got to work through that. Tom Cruise's character, Pete Mitchell, can't follow a single fucking rule ever.
That Maverick. Oh, yeah, stinky Maverick.
Yeah, no, it's those flaws that highlight who they are and make them feel very human in this movie.
Yeah, and speaking of feeling human, you know what makes me feel human?
Please tell me.
There's a little ad break. We're back. I feel human again. Just like Tom Cruise.
Just like the airplane. Wait.
Just like the flesh plane that they drive.
Oh, no.
And they connect to it like an Evangelion.
No.
The plane's my mom? Well, now that would be a turn.
Oh,
Top
God.
Gun 3. The planes are
Evangelion.
alive. Evangelion. Look, I don't fully want to recruit anybody, but the film definitely does. The film wants you to go, oh my God, look at the Navy, guys. And guess what? It's allowed to. It's allowed to do this thing. And I'm not going to hold it against it because it's a badass movie. And I don't want to join the military. Didn't work on me. But damn, if it's just not one of those things where you put enough money into something that looks this good and sounds this good and actually is this good, it surprised me too, because this was a first watch for me, actually. So, Aaron, fifth watch? Fourth one?
Fourth or fifth.
Impressive. I had the full-on like cinema experience where I am My hair is standing up on the back of my neck. The beautiful soundtrack is blasting in my eardrums, and I'm locked in that cockpit with Tom Cruise, and I'm just sitting in his lap, and I'm like, Tom, where are we going? This is exciting. I fear for my life, but it's. I feel like there's something so magical about these Top Gun films. I don't know how they make me feel this way, because there hasn't been another military film in this way where I do feel like I am transported to the same dangerous situation. And it goes back to the sort of lack of information that I think somehow puts you in the same headspace, where this is not something I usually think about in films, but it's like, wow, you are thinking of a pilot taking massive amounts of G-forces, and the film is showing you, and you're hearing like their breathing getting short, and they're trying to talk on the radio with their stuff, and the film then is showing you their vision being cut off because of the G-force, like they're almost going into shock or just passing out. And you can see a shot like that multiple times in this film, and it doesn't get old. It doubles down on how dangerous and cool it is without being boring.
Yeah.
Which is a feat.
Yeah. And I would also like to highlight that, I saw the movie twice in theaters, and I think my biggest fear of this movie was that it would not translate to like the home environment well. Mm-hmm. Like having, again, Harold there with his church bell and his guitar, I was like, there's no way that this movie is gonna like impact me as much when I watch it either on a TV screen or on a laptop or on an airplane or something. But having
on an airplane would be a trip,
dude. In an F-18. Having seen it once on my TV and then once now on my laptop, the movie just works on all media. It is one of those rare movies that just works really well. And I had my headphones in for this one on the laptop, so I think that was really doing it for me and keeping with it. Oh yeah. But I want to give.
I turned it up.
Yeah. I want to give props to this movie for maintaining that, just like, I don't even know
experience.
A word. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It is an experience, and it feels like a cinema experience without, I mean, we didn't see this in theaters. We're this episode is coming out in 2023. There's no re-release that we know of. But it captures that same movie magic feel that you get when you sit down in an uncomfortable seat in a theater and watch a film. And I applaud it for doing that. It's crazy that it worked.
Yeah, and you know what, Tom Cruise, if you want to put this movie back out in theaters, I will go watch it again. Because I've now seen it 4 or 5 times, and it won't be my last watch of this movie.
No, this is a rewatchable. Yeah.
You described the movie as a banger, and I would definitely agree with that.
I did. The credits were rolling, and was doing flippadoos, and I stared at it, and I goes, "Dang, this is a banger." Straight out the gate. Amazing movie.
And one of the other things I think that we should highlight is something you pointed out in the movie was the pacing of this one, where, not to go too deep into the first one, because we'll get around to, talking about that one.
We'll dedicate an episode to that, yeah.
The first one has a very particular, I'm going to say it, just a very particular pacing that is almost reminiscent of 1980s movies.
Yes, and the particular... one, means bad.
Yeah, but this one, I don't have that same impression.
It flew by,
dude. It flew by.
Hey, gotcha.
Yeah, there's the first part of the movie, he starts as a test pilot, and then it moves to him working at Top Gun, and it feels like the rest of the movie could just exist at the school of teaching these kids how to fly their planes better.
It's what you fully expect.
Yeah.
From the first film.
And you're like looking at your watch, you're like, there's no way that they're going to get around to doing the mission. And then they start the mission, you're like, there's not enough for this. And then there's the mission, and then there's the complications that happen from the mission. And you're still looking at your watch, you're like, there's no way.
There's no way there's more to this film.
Yeah. But it just kept going.
Yeah, and it breakneck pace. It hits Mach 10 in the first 15 minutes.
It does.
And I mean, if that's an opening sequence to set you off on how the film is going to go, it perfectly shows you Maverick's sort of abilities and faults in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And you get a sick Ed Helms being a badass, just showing up for like very quick, like 5 minutes, like, hey, I'm Ed Helms. And all the shots in that hypersonic sequence are incredible.
Oh my God.
And
yes.
set the film off on this amazing breakneck pace, but it's not too fast like Maverick, who's just too darn fast. It is an interest. I mean, it's not even, it's not particular. It is a perfectly paced film that deserves the timestamp of how long it is, when normally I'm like, just hit it at 90 and get me out of here because I need to leave. I need to use the bathroom or something. But no, this is one where you're like, Return of the King, hit me up, 3 hours. I don't care. Just keep playing the movie and I'll keep watching.
Yeah. Yeah. So this movie's 2 hours? Because I literally could not tell you exactly how long this movie is.
I don't know. I think it's like 2.5. I don't know. Yeah. It's pretty long.
And every time I've seen it, I just never feel that it is the amount of time it is.
No, there's no moment in it where I was like looking at my watch like, oh boy, I hope this scene ends quicker. And there's times, and I speak specifically in Insomnia, when some people are talking and the editing's bad, and I say, oh boy, I wish this scene was over. Never in this film. The editing is perfect. That's the thing, is the editing sells every scene because it is stitched together in such a way where you're not taken out of any shot, you're not taken out of any conversation because of anything that takes you out of it. It is like,
I think in the way that like an 8-course meal, like it flows, right? It flows from one meal piece to the next, and you have enough time to linger on what you're given, but everything in your meal is so generous that you're anticipating what's coming next, and then you look at it at the end and you're like, ooh, that whole meal was great.
Yes.
And this movie is very similar to that, where like there is so much generous offering in this movie. You have him starting as a Mach 10 test pilot. You then have him working at the school. There's a scene on a little sailboat. Like everything
that scene rips.
I know. And like with, again, Harold and Lady Gaga like work together to like mash their songs together. I don't know if they actually worked together in the studio, but I like to imagine they did.
I'd hope so.
Yeah. Maybe on a sailboat.
That song rips too, so it's like, yeah, I would hope so.
There was just so much generous, offerings in this movie that just, again, flowed from one thing to the next. And they did a very good job of being like, all right, here's your thing. It's beautiful. It's amazing. You want more of it, but we're not going to give it to you. We are just moving on to the next thing. Boom. Now we're on the football scene. Generous. It's amazing. It's great. Yes. It's great to look at. Boom. Now we're moving on to the next thing. And like, the football thing, you could live in that moment for like 8 minutes, but it didn't give that to you. It was just like, here it is. Boom. Now the next thing. Oh, yeah. Now here's this. Boom. Now we're moving on to the next thing. And it worked Seamless. Really well. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
And speaking of the football thing, I'd like to go to my next point, which is that nowadays when you have these new like revitalized movies that come from like an 80s movie or a 90s movie, they almost do that egregious writing sin of like, hey, this thing is directly related to that thing. And here's all of these tropes from the first one. And here's all of these callbacks. And it's just like, kind of insulting to watch, where you're just like, did you have any original thoughts in this one? And I think this movie did a very good job of playing homage to the first ones. You have his, classic motorcycle. You have a love interest. You have the football scene, which takes place of the volleyball scene. You have a quick Kenny Loggins. You have him buzzing the tower at the end. Like, you have all of these homages, but again, it's not like, hey, he buzzed the tower here, and he buzzed the tower there, and he buzzed the tower there. Oh, that's so funny. They did it 4 times in the first one. We did it 5 in this one. No, it just like, it did it once, and you're like, that's who he is. It gave it to me. Boom. Now here's the next thing.
Yes, totally agree. It manages being a reboot, a sequel. It doesn't have sequel-itis or whatever, where it's trying to be this other thing. It's a new director, so you're getting a new vision on this thing, but you're using Tom Cruise, you're using all of these actors that had been in the previous film, and you're steeping it in your own thing. And so that's why it's sold for me is, I wasn't a big fan of Top Gun, but it's undeniable how impactful it is on culture, just on filmmaking in general. And all of the callbacks that are done are not cheeky wink callbacks. They're an homage in themselves to the filmmaking of the 80s, of like a wider course. They're an homage to this like type of film that Top Gun was visually, in all these different kind of ways.
To go along with that too, like in all of these like reboots and stuff, you have them just, again, so egregiously being like, hey, here's this character from the first one. They're in this one now, but older. Look, Han Solo, he's still grumpy.
Yes. So that is the thing. Any character that was previously or not previously in the film is treated the exact same way besides Tom Cruise's, besides Maverick, who is the ultimate character of the film series. Everybody else, if they were in the film or not, it doesn't even matter. You're like, oh, well, there's Warlock, there's Jennifer Connelly. They're treated the same way. They're introduced the same way because it's written well. It's written as not a tongue-in-cheek bullshit reboot. It's written as its own thing.
Yeah.
That plays, yes, on the previous thing, but there is absolutely no way that anyone would ever need to watch the original Top Gun to like fully enjoy Maverick. You're just like, that's false. You could just watch Top Gun Maverick and you would get it. I think it is enhanced because we have more recently watched it, the 86. Yeah, it's like, it's foolish to think like, oh, it's just a reboot of this old 86 movie. It's like, no, it's its own thing.
Yeah. And you got Warlock in there, but like he, plays a more mature character who is still working in the military, and his character serves a purpose and a, story purpose to this movie. And then you also have Val Kilmer's character who, like, yes, they are callbacks from the first one, but it's not just like, hey, Iceman, remember that time that we didn't get along, but now we do? It's not insulting to the previous source material.
Definitely. Yeah. A reverence to itself in some way.
Yeah.
But I think having Tom Cruise sell that was probably the easiest thing. As Tom Cruise is just like, yeah, I fucking love Top Gun. I will treat this film with as much reverence as I treated the 86 one, where I flew the jets and played the volleyball, and everyone's like, all right,
the
Tom
songs.
Cruise. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the film?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
What do you tell people?
I tell them, are you crazy? Go watch this movie. Why didn't you go watch this movie in theaters? Yeah, no, this movie is absolutely a watch for me. Turn the episode off here. Don't even listen to what Jimmy has to say. Go pull it up right now. It's on Amazon Prime.
After all I've said.
Yeah, Jimmy, let's hear your contrarian take to this movie.
No, it's a watch from me. There's no way I could tell you not to watch this film. I think, again, that the fact that it does have its timestamp, that an unknowable timestamp to me, is a feat in itself. Because if I cared, I'd go look it up and I'd be like, oh no, 2.5 hours, how could I even? But it flies by. It literally sits you in that cockpit and is like, hey, you sit there and you're gonna watch this film and it's gonna be beautiful and you're gonna love it and it's gonna look amazing and it's gonna sound amazing, and it won an Oscar for sound. So if Oscars mean anything to you, then just like, I don't know, keep that in your back pocket. But regardless, Harold Faltermeyer, he's here. He's riding he's behind you with a bell, and you're in the front, and he's behind you in the cockpit. Yeah, but there's just like nothing wrong with this movie besides if you decide to look at the military-industrial complex in that way. From a film perspective, this is a film you want to see. This is a film I want you to see because it's amazing. It was so fun.
Yeah. When it comes down to a question of like how I want people to, should I suggest that they spend their time, their valuable time on this planet to sit down and watch a movie? You know, Insomnia. No. This movie, absolutely. Take whatever time it is that this movie runs. Watch this movie.
But no, I do think there is a fun reality that we live in where Tom Cruise literally got the Navy to be like, yeah, just take a few for your film.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure he just bought his own aircraft carrier for a couple shots that there was an aircraft carrier.
How did they do any of that?
Dude, how did they do those ones?
Was that a set? I can't even think about it. It's real.
Yeah, I love it.
It's too good. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Too Much Popcorn, where we just jacked ourselves off about Top Gun Maverick, just like the film does.
Yeah.
For an hour.
You know, oh God. If you're still listening after what Jimmy just said, I do want to give our very first... No! No! I want to give our very first quick should you watch it. John Wick 4 is out in theaters right now. I just saw it yesterday, again, in theaters. Go watch it. Go absolutely watch that movie.
I haven't seen it. I don't concur.
Yeah, Jimmy hasn't seen it, so this one's just coming from me. I don't know if you've seen the first three. Go binge those ones really quick. Maybe they're watches, maybe they're not. We might do episodes on those.
I've heard good things.
We might even do an episode on number 4, but I'm absolutely telling you right now, John Wick 4 is out. Go see it. Go see it. Go see it. Go see it.
It's a film of the cinema,
is
what they say.
Go see it.
Go see it. I'll second that because, I don't know, I like Keanu Reeves enough to just blindly tell you to go watch films that he's in. And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Too Much Popcorn. If you have the time to leave a review, we'd love to see it wherever you're listening. And we'll see you next time for more movie reviews just like this one. Bye.